So first of all, thank you to being here and to inviting me, because I was born not so far from here, and I leave Poland when I was 6. So, and it's amazing to be 12 years here later. So, and attend the conference and then to talk with you on this topic. So, it's a nice question, because when you look at me, so I try to investigating the brain since 2011 to understand how we make decisions, how we perceive informations through our senses, what is the conscious, the unconscious, and things like that. And my thesis and my research, I developed a model, unconscious model to understand and then to measure experience in digital media, and to get it validated in an unconscious way. So I think at least it is a ground research until today, but it is also innovated at the same time. And other things we do, we will come later to these points. We try to adapt technologies, multisensory technologies, but also these findings we get until now about emotions, affects, the unconscious, we try to adapt it now in the robotic fields. So it's amazing what we can do, especially in the service robotics, things like that. Also related to AI, how we can mix the findings we get with the AI and programmate neural networks, which will help us to get better data and then to understand the people and predict their behavior. So yeah, I think it's a nice future.
All right, thank you very much. And well, actually, when we are talking about the brain, and well, actually, there will be the combination of all the methods of the medical from the medical field and how to implement into the economy, to the marketing, which is also a lot of ethical problem and issues. So this is really big space. Of course, we will talk about this later. Okay, Maria. So what is your field of study and the research?
So I come from the University of Alicante, and we are a quite big university, so we have many research in our university. For example, only the Department of Communication, we are 80 teachers. So in my case, I have been working in the communication of innovation that companies has to do when they receive public funds. You know that the European Union has a lot of programs, and we have to do dissemination and to have some actions. And I study if the companies are doing that actions, and they are not doing. At least no, they are not doing the diffusion that the European Union asks. And moreover, I have been working too with the part of the communication and how we use storytelling and humor in advertisement. That it's a topic that I love, because I don't know in your case, but I think all the people is avoiding advertisement because sometimes it's horrible. And companies has to find other ways to connect with the customers, with the target. And we are trying to guess what kind of advertisement is working well and what companies has to do. I come from the business part, so I'm trying to do all the time research that it's really applied, not models or things like that.
All right, thank you. And Paweł?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to be here and have possibility to discuss this problem with great professors. And I think that those topics of our discussion are really interesting. And at the beginning, I would like to start with some statements that can explain my today's point of view. I represent marketing and consumer behavior studies. And I would say that marketing and consumer behavior, there are sciences. I treat them as sciences, although we know that they don't have own research methods. we borrow them from other disciplines. But there is not only our problem, there is problem of other sciences, sociology, psychology, and so on. And the dominant paradigm on which the studies at my university are conducted is positivism. And I'm sure that it is a dominant paradigm not only at Cracow University of Economics. The same situation is here at University of Economics in Katowice. And in my opinion, there is a special situation for universities in Poland, in Europe, in the United States. I'm interested in methodological integration in studies. And I'm also interested in qualitative research studies, anthropological studies. I would like to say that it is not the mainstream of the research area. I wrote a book entitled Integration of Methodological Approaches in Marketing Research, and some articles about triangulation, something which we call the mixed method design. And in my opinion, it is interesting field of the methodological and empirical studies because it is quite new. We have in social sciences 20, maybe 30 years of tradition of doing it. And I think that in our area, I will develop it later, we don't do a lot of mixed studies.
All right, thank you very much. Well, actually, I also would like to share what the topic of the research we do in our department, because today also I have the colleagues here which are representing the consumption research department, and actually we are finishing the very interesting research concerning consumer exclusions. Well, actually, the next step will be how to include the customer back to the market, and so we investigate these exclusions of the customers on different markets, both on the even on the food market, which is really necessary for everyone, but also we were talking about the we do the research about the exclusion of the customers on the services market, and we took also in consideration the situation of the market, because when we are talking about the digital economy and the possibilities of the customers to use the internet and to buy the products through the internet, but also there is also a big problem for some of the customers, and some first research showing that the mostly customers are excluded who are usually, unfortunately, less educated. Customers with a low income, customers which are usually elderly customers, especially when we are talking about the digital market, those who lives in the rural area, but also the women who are as a single take care for the baby, so they have a problem to be a full member of the market of the society. But also what we discover in our research, which was very unusual for us. Actually, we didn't expect this, that the exclusions, excluded customer, also they are the customers who already family or friends are also excluded. So somehow we created this, like the social groups, which are also attracting the people who later also be excluded. So actually, we have to fight with such exclusions by increasing the level of education of the customers to spread. And I'm not talking only about the higher education or the education in the school, but the market education. So this is very important aspect. The second field of our interest is the sustainable consumption. We know all these directives of the European United United Nations and how the whole world, how the whole economy should be sustainable. So we focus on the side with the consumption. And here, as you said, there's a lot of problem with how to measure. Also because all the objective indicators which we have in all the statistics data in Poland, in Europe, or generally on the United Nations level, well, actually they are not really showing the structure of the consumption, and basing on this, we have difficulties to judge if this consumption is really sustainable. So that's why at our university we applied the subjective approach to investigate the sustainable consumption, when we mostly analyze and try to investigate customer attitudes toward different goods and the consumption of those goods. Of course, on the other side, we identified the huge gap between the attitudes and the real behaviors. Almost every single type of the products, including saving electricity, selecting the garbage and so on. So there is a really, really huge gap. We declare our attitudes to sustainable consumption is really on the high level, but the behaviors are totally different. And finally, the third group, the area of our interest is with the market education and customer protection standards. So we, as in Europe, because we have to take in consideration the European perspective, we are in fact lucky because the European Commission is really forcing the governments to introduce the consumer policy, very detailed consumer policy, and how to educate customers. So for one side, we should, well, right now they are promoting the ombudsman model, which should support the customers. Not like, for example, in US when there's the more court model, so the customer need to fight by themselves. Of course, we have a special court dedicated to the, we call it the law requirements of the customers. However, we can feel more secure. However, it will work only if the customer has such a knowledge. And our idea, our goal is just to promote the consumer rights among the young generation like you students, and then you will be like ambassador of this idea that the customer, of course, is the weaker elements of the market. However, there is a big weapon using the consumer law, and you can use this law efficiency to fight your rights on the market. So these are our areas of the research. Maybe we can ask some colleagues or you, because we have also the professors here, what is the research at your university, or you can see some trends of the research in the field of consumer behavior and marketing on the global scale. Do you have any doubts? Yeah. Okay, so may I ask the John Ball from St. John's University? Yeah.
Thank you. I just, first of all, it's really interesting to hear the European perspective and how many parallels there are between some of the research that's happening in US universities, particularly interest in the brain, advertising communications for sure, and the mixed methodology is also becoming something that is increasingly of interest, but to your point, also very much new. And then for my research, action research is something that I'm involved in, which is also something that is qualitative and quite unique, and as a result, sometimes difficult to publish some of these kind of unique methodologies that people are using. And in action research, because the framework for action research is to understand problems by solving them with people in context, it also tends to take a long time. So this research happens over 3, 4, 5, and sometimes, in some cases, with the work I'm doing, 10 years of looking at longitudinal experiences. So it's exciting to see how many different ways we're asking the similar questions about consumer behavior and marketing and moving toward new knowledge.
All right, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? So if we don't have the questions, actually I would like to propose to go to the next topic. Well, actually we already start discuss about the methodology of the research, but this is very important issue for especially for the consumer behavior and the marketing. And actually I have a few questions to our panelists and also to you concerning the future of the research, because what do you think? What will be the research area of what research in the area of the consumer behavior and marketing will dominate in the future? Generally, we always observe there is some kind of fight between qualitative and quantitative research. So what is, in your opinion, will be more in the future more popular, the qualitative or quantitative research? Let's go through the whole panel.
Do you start or me? I start.
Yes, please.
Okay,
Ladies first.
thank you. I think it depends if you are watching it from the point of view of the university or the business point. Because if you are watching it from the point of view of the university, of course, quantitative. Because if not, it's impossible to publish a paper, and sometimes it's really difficult. But if you watch it from the point of view of the business, they use more qualitative techniques, methodology, because they want to know details, no, about the behavior of the consumers. So it depends. In fact, I think that we need both. We need like the quantitative to give us like the general view, and the qualitative to understand very well what is going on and what our consumer thinks and feel.
Okay, thank you very much, Thomas.
Yeah, thanks. It was also a part of my PhD thesis and my studies, so I tried to understand which instruments do we already have, so also qualitative, quantitative, also the explicit and the implicit, so conscious, unconscious. And at least the findings, when we look at the findings, so, and it comes maybe to the true, if it exists. We can't use at least quantitative methods and get validated data, because everything we experience, so scientists tell between 99 or until 99.6% we perceive unconscious. So when you say let's use quantitative methods, your decision can be yes or not. It can't be the truth. It can't be validated at least. So we have to, or I try to find instruments and combining instruments, also using EEG, eye scanner, make completely new creations and compositions to get the measurement and the quality of emotion and affects. I was also looking at the ERR tests, some models and some theories from the psychotherapy. So, and at least it can't be validated. So that's why I started developing a completely new model, which I integrated, which I can use to get the unconscious experience you get at this moment. So I think that will be the future. It will be a mix. Otherwise, we need also the quantitative at least, because we need the numbers and an answer. So it's important to have a static behind. But first of all, it will be implicit.
All right, so as we can see that they are there, like we cannot resign from any kind of the research, because all of them, they have a special impact and delivering us the necessary information to get the full pictures of the consumer, their behaviors, how they react on the marketing activities. So I think that is step by step, we are going to really to integrate of methodology of the research. So, which is the expert is Paweł. So, could you tell us more about your findings? You are the expert in Poland in this approach. So, could you describe more about this concept?
I would agree with Professor Maria that it depends on if we conduct studies on the university or in business area. And I think that people in business area are more interested in developing qualitative studies. I remember when I was writing my PhD thesis, I used them qualitative approach, and I was presenting the data, and there was some question, are there any numbers, where is the statistical analysis, and so on. It was a little misunderstanding of this attitude. 3 years ago, I did meta-analysis how often methodological integration is used in marketing field and consumer behavior field in Poland. And I found out that positivist approach was dominant. More than 90% of all articles use that methodological approach. Only about 5% of studies, there was quantitative studies, qualitative studies, and about 5% there was integrated methodology. So I think that we will have trend of increase of interest of qualitative methods, but this quantitative attitude, this positivistic way of thinking will be still dominant. Why we have dominance of positivist approach? I found out 3 problems. The first one is tradition. Majority researchers was educated in this methodology, and they treat it as the most important methodology. The second problem, I called it scientific status of the discipline. Positivism and neo-positivism tended to create real science, to become like the natural sciences. And as I said, many researcher would like to study in this way. And the last thing, there are troubles with integrating different methodological paths. It is time, we need time, it is time consuming, it costs more, the researcher should have skills to do different studies, and it is difficult to do it, to realize it in practice.
All right, thank you very much. And so generally we will, in the future, definitely the integrate approach to do the research will be like the mainstream. In fact, actually, also I can experience, because right now, well, the next months we will be the witness of the another PhD defense of my PhD candidate, and the first three PhD, they were mostly only focusing on the quantitative research, but the 2 of them, they are only integrate concept. We start with the qualitative research because actually the area of the research was totally unknown, so we had to ask the expert. Then we did the quantitative, and again we back to the qualitative, because to explain all this phenomenon we were able to identify during this the quantitative research was only able to do it during qualitative research, and we can use a different one. For example, one of my PhD candidates, she was supported by the ethnography, so we adopt the ethnographic methodology into the using the new technology into. And it was really, really fantastic research. And of course, when we are talking about the new technology, so what is your opinion, in fact, about how the new technology will be used in consumer behavior and marketing research? So, and what kind of new technology we are able to apply to this research. And it's not only that we can apply, but then we need to have a skills to analyze the results of the research, and you should be prepared for it. Yes, so Thomas?
Yeah, sure, thank you. And so it's a point of view. So what you will get for data and then so of course, until now we have wonderful instruments and also working with a partner in Germany, we are able to understand the human behavior and at least predict very well what will happen and which decision she will does. So yeah, we've done a mix of a combination of methods, like the sinus milieus, yeah, big fives. Then we try to understand how the human brain works, the neural network, and try to build an AI who works like that, but combining all these models together. So it's also mathematic, and it works very well. So if you are interested, I have no findings here, but I can share it with you. So just ask, please, Professor Dr. Smyczek, and I think he will share it with you. But so we have great possibilities until now. It's also now we will come to the point, ethical points, and then data protection, and then so we have wonderful possibilities to understand even more and more using the technology, using the findings in psychology, medicine, sociology, and an end. But yeah, at least it's a question where the way will go. Yeah, are the things we already know? You know, I think when it comes at least to the points, so we have to say, okay, in the security area and things like that, areas like that, I will adopt them. It's okay. But do we want to see things like that in the economic area? It's a big question. We have to answer by us.
Thank you very much, Maria.
So I think Thomas explained very well. The artificial intelligence, I think, is going to have a very important paper in the future. And I think we have to speak as well about metaverse, because of course we know that neuroscience is going to grow very fast and that allow us to understand very well how is the behavior of the target. But we have now some technologies or some issues that are growing too. And for example, I asked myself, what is going to happen with metaverse? And here we can see, because we are getting old, I'm sorry. And for us, it's not a real technology, but I wonder if, for example, this is a technology that we have to analyze better, because of course that we know that neuroscience and all the artificial intelligence, and for example, I collaborate with business that are trying to automatize all the contents and everything, so the people only has to check if it's correct, even the descriptions of the product. So technology is going faster. So maybe at the end, I would like to ask you two things. First, what do you think about the experiments in stores? No, in store experiments that it's as well a good option to get information, and about metaverse.
Okay, thank you.
Just a second, may I say something very important? So I don't know, you remember, you know, so Google starts, I think 10 years ago, 11 years ago, a project where you get the possibility to upload yourself online by sharing your DNA with them, and then for a fee, I think $90, $80, things like that. So it's already start, and then we have a lot of people who share the data, the DNA with Google just to upload them, just to be, maybe after that, stay alive and then having a second life. So that's the thing connected to the metaverse, and then so it's amazing what happened at least. I'm sorry for that.
Thank you, Paweł.
I hope that artificial intelligence in the future will work for us and will collect data. And it would be wonderful if artificial intelligence would collect survey data because it is difficult to find people who would like to fill questionnaires to do it. So it would be helpful. You mentioned about ethnography, and there is area which are interested in also. I'm interested in ethnographic anthropological studies. I did some projects in the past, and now we have a new chance to move from I would say classical field of study to the new internet, and it is difficult to say that in ethnography, there is internet ethnography. There is something other because we have a different way of communication. We have different respondents and it is difficult to move way of collecting data from the field studies to the internet. And I think that it will be a developing area of studies because the pandemic time changed situation. Before pandemic, we did more classical studies. We use field studies. And after that, during pandemic, we were forced to change our attitudes. And communication tools was developed, and now it is better for us to stay in the internet because it is cheaper, faster. We have wide range of possibilities of study.
All right, thank you very much. Now I would like to ask the audience if you have any comments concerning like new technology. Yes, please. Behind you.
Yes, thank you. Sylwia Słupik, University of Economics in Katowice. Thank you very much for your comment, Mr. Professor, but I disagree that only the pandemic forced us to view in the artificial intelligence more and more, because I also did some research on the international level, the EcoBot. When we discovered the automatic and the chatbot who will help the energy consumer behavior, and we also find out that the energy consumer wants to use actually some artificial intelligence to help them to management in energy field, even before the pandemic. So this is the start that we should also think about to combining these methods. I also agree that the qualitative methods we should develop more and more. But this is also one problem with it, because how we combine and compare these results. So we can use some experiments, for example, but the triangulation of the methods will be the answer of this question. Because from the one side we have to do this quantitative, that we can compare, that we can the findings can be also in the way of not only the positive way but also the normative way. So we have to change the behavior. We have to show in which direction the consumer should go, especially when we discuss the European Union, the path to the sustainable development, especially in the energy field. So I agree with your voice, and I see that the beginning, maybe not it's the beginning, but I think that it's quite, maybe we are in the medium path to combining the artificial intelligence with the today life, everyday life of the consumers, especially in the energy field. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for very important voice. There is any other comments or question? Yes, please. We have over here, over there. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So you've been talking about positivity and neo-positivity in economics, and could you talk more about it?
What would you like to hear?
Could you explain it more, because it's pretty new?
The studies could be conducted, could be based on two paradigms. And one paradigm, it is a positivistic paradigm. And we could say that quantitative studies could be related, could be based on this paradigm. And there is the second methodological path, which is based on interpretivist paradigm. And it could be connected to the qualitative studies. In marketing area, in consumer behavior area, we use those two attitudes, those two studies paths, methodological paths are used the most often. And as I said, the positivistic paradigm is dominant. There are different assumptions or two both paradigms, ontological, axiological, and methodological assumptions. If we would like to base on a positivist paradigm, we treat research society as a all part. We try to have representative studies. We answer the question how much, for example, how many consumers are interested in the product, how much they would like to pay for the offer, and so on. If we use the interpretivist paradigm, our knowledge is contextual. So it is important to answer the question why. We try to understand what are the motives of behavior. We try to understand why consumer is love the brand or hate the brand, and so on. There is this knowledge is, as I said, contextual. It is a subjective knowledge, but there is deep knowledge.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Maybe the question, yeah, please, Professor.
Mohammed Rushdie from Egypt. For metaverse, they are using virtual and augmented reality. Okay, do you think it's useful and has the benefits or harmful for us, metaverse, especially for kids and boys? Yeah. And why?
Thank you for your question.
And why?
May I? Thank you. So, you know, many years ago, we start working in the field of virtual reality, mixed reality, and use cases, and start thinking about thoughts like you have and questions like you have. When? Why? Is it possible? Should we? And then we decide, okay, look, if we have some dangerous situations, it's perfectly to use virtual reality to let them experience, maybe the workers, what will happen in an end. So they are trained until maybe it will happen in the reality, but they already experience it. So it will be an automatism. They don't have to think about it. So situations like that, amazing. Metaverse, of course, children, sure, why not? Let them enjoy the history, experience the history. When we look at the brain, even more senses are connected, so you will experience it, you will learn from it. It's amazing, you know? It's a pleasure for our brain to get this. But of course, we have to build the right framework. Yeah? Don't misunderstood the data. Don't use the data in the wrong way, at least when it comes to our children, the next generation. And so we have to use it useful. For a good, not for a bad. And I think when we're talking about metaverse, so it's amazing what we can do with it, but we have to, at the same time, we have to build frameworks for governments, for companies, and to secure this playground. It's so important.
Thank you, but I think metaverse without any control, that's problem. Yeah, it must be controlled for children because it's dangerous for our children. The augmented reality is very dangerous for. Yeah, I know the benefits of virtual reality and augmented reality. Yeah, but must be under control for children. That's I mean that.
It is, but at least look at this. Yeah, it's just an iPhone. But when we talking about under control, having under control, it's depending from you, you know. I can teach you having it under control, but at least how often you spend it, what you do. It's just by you. So the thing is not we have to have it under control, just teaching you how to use it, what will be possible, where we have to be afraid of it. So I think the education is also a main part.
Education more than laws, because if you have regulations but you don't have education, and I think all technology is very dangerous for children, even the phones, that I think are really. So the question is, if metaverse is a reality, so we can do a very small test. And for example, how many of you think that metaverse have a future? So how many of you? So this is the reality. So we have to think about what kind of data are we taking from them, and of course we are watching some actions that can help us. For example, the cookie regulation is going to change. And I think that is going to change as well the way that we take data from the behavior of customers. Because now we have many companies that sell that data and allow us to create like our perfect customers. And sometimes, I don't know you, but I'm a little bit worried because I think that Facebook or Google know more about me than me. So it's true. Because they study what do you pay with your car, where are you going, and many things. So I think metaverse is a reality, as the same as the phones. So we need a lot of education, first of all, and to analyze what we want for that kind of platforms.
I also have the questions concerning, because if you propose that somebody needs to control, so it means who need to control? Because then this person or institutions who control, they have extremely big power on us, on our behaviors, and can modify our behaviors as well, or stimulate the behaviors. We know, we have some rumors concerning the influence on the elections in US and so on by big data and so on. So this is the question, who need to control? And I think that we should avoid it, because actually if the first layer should be the parents, right, in comparisons to the children. But if the parents are not prepared and they don't know, they are not prepared to use it, and they don't know what is behind this, so the children, even they are much more educated than the parents. So who in that case will be the control institutions in that case? So of course I know that we will not solve this problem today, but we are here just to put the questions on the table and well, then further investigate this. Well,
we already started discussion like that, and then I think one of the most common ideas is to integrate a new form of digital commission, which should be globally integrated at the UN. So we have things like that, and yeah, you know, we're discussing, and so it's a long way, but we have to. We have to, and then we have to spend the time for it and put the energy in, because it will be important. But at the same time, we have to start teaching, educating. And as you say, also the parents. First, the parents, you know. You grow up, when we look at the brain, and sorry, but when we look at the brain, so you grow up, the first 7 years are the most important years for each of us. Because we are open to connect everything. It's amazing what happens in the brain. So you get everything. All of informations, and after that, it's going slower and slower. So the main part is already building, and it's hard after it to change, to giving new informations. It is possible, but it's going harder and harder.
If you allow me, I want to do another small test. How many of you do you think that technologies has real risk? Real. So the question is, what are we doing for that? Because we know that they have some risks, but we prefer enjoy, we prefer have our time there. So I think from the behavior point of view, you have a lot of work to do because it's the future. So.
Well, actually, there was my next questions concerning, well, maybe not the treats, but actually I would like to ask about the what are the limitations of applying, I don't know, internet and new technology into the consumer behavior research and marketing research. But immediately, the second question is appearing, what are the treats of applying this new technology into the research of consumer behavior and the marketing? So can we discuss this problem? What are the treats, in fact, or limitations? Because when we apply even the quantitative research, the internet, and we do the research only via internet, what kind of limitations we have, and how we can fight with this limitation?
I could base on one study did some years ago, and it was a kind of methodological task. I did deep interviews with customers, and it was done twice. The first, there was a direct interview, and the second time it was a deep interview using communicator, internet communicator. And after that, I evaluate it, how it was for me, good or not, which kind of interview was better. And also participants evaluated this form. And I found out that there was young people like you, and many people were interested in direct contact because this human side was very, very important for them. And I think that there is the main traits that this kind of research using artificial intelligence are artificial. So people are going to have direct contact.
But also from the other side, when we have a direct interview and the interviewer, he or she must be really well prepared, because otherwise they can also influence on the respondents, on their answers. So when we have this online interview, the definitely benefits is that they can really respond independently. But of course, from the other side, if you have very well trained interviewer, they can also help the respondent. Not only they change the opinion of the customer, the respondent, but also can help it. So everything depends on how prepared you have this interviewer. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why we try to use deep interviews from psychology. Not to get the quantitative data, just the unconscious. So we try to understand what's behind. So we will get an interview and then you will talk about the topic. But we were collecting this data and then understand the bottom line and then analyze this. And I think when it comes at least to this point, it should be more validated than quantitative interview. It's like we talked at the first topic today. So the unconscious is very important. And of course, when I can predict and can understand the consumers using also AI and an end, so at least it's validated. So I think for us as scientists, it will be to let AI in. Yeah, in our field, using AI with our mindset now. So we have to change the mindset, understand AI, how to mix it, how to use it. So it will be a long way. But at the economy, other sides, we already use it, like I say. We can use it, we have the data there. So if you want something, we did a study 2 months ago about the scientificity. So we try to understand how the customer think, what is related when you look at the brain. So just like a neural network, what is related to the green parties, to sign stability and things like that. And we get as a result, so we don't look for it, but we get one of the results that Adidas as their brand, when it comes at least to the green, yeah. So for a green future and climate change. So Adidas stands for a change. So things like that, amazing findings we got and we find. So we have the possibilities. The thing is, what would you want to find? So what we should understand or what we have to understand.
Okay, thank you, Maria.
I cannot anything else because he explained very well. I think that technology is a fantastic tool for research and even for business. And we need more education about how to use it, at least from the university, because I don't know in other universities, but for example, in our case, we work, our research groups work very alone. So we need more education about how to share data from other disciplines like psychology, sociology, and I think that's really important for universities and for business too, because now we have to talk about cooperation between different kinds of business and between the public and the private sector. And we have a fantastic tool, and we have to understand what can we do with that tool. And from another point of, I have 2 children, and so from another point of view, I think we have to study very well what is going to happen with teenagers and with technology, because I don't know if it happens here, but from COVID, I believe, or I have the feeling that people stay more at home, they are connected, but we are losing like our personal part that I don't know here in Poland, but in Spain it's really, really important. So this is one of the bad parts of the technology. For research is fantastic, for business is fantastic, but what happens for people?
Right. Thank you. Thomas, you want to?
Yeah, just to say, because of the kids, I have also to experience the same. But at least it's a wonderful tool. So yeah, to share your thoughts, get in touch with each other, especially so in the last 2 years in a crisis. So and also the gamification factor behind a phone like that. What else? So you will get open-minded, creative, and an answer. So I would say, in the one way, it supports your education, your creativity, and your personality grow. But at least we come to the question, okay, where's the point, okay? Because it's changed, it's break, you have a peak, and then it's going unhealthy. And yeah, I think this is one of the most important things, and we have to look at it also. Not also at home and at our children's advice, also at science. Yeah, it's really important for the future.
All right, so naturally with the discussion is approaching to the question, what will be the future type of the researchers in consumer behavior and marketing? Because of such a big role of the new technology in the research, it will be replaced by the computer scientists, or still there will be the space for the psychologists, sociologists, economists, or it will be really, we need the IT expert in this area. So what will be the future researcher? What the kind of the characteristics? Is there space for us, or we should totally go to the IT department?
Yeah. I think it was the same like when we started the development of the technology, no, in the factories, and we were afraid that people has not place in factories. I think it's the same, and of course people is necessary because we have to interpret that kind of data. We have to think, and technology is a tool for doing the things that don't add value. So to automatize processes and things like that, and I think the value of the person is other. It's just to interpret, and of course we are going to have work for some years, I think.
All right, Thomas.
I think at least it's a stupid code. When we look at this point. So we have to understand it, because before we use also researching software and then things like that. And we never try discussions like that. So of course it will change a lot, but we have to understand how to use it and then when to use it. Of course we will get more findings, automatism, and then so it will make our life as researcher much easier. And we can focus on other things and combining things together. And it's already happened now when you look at the studies and the findings the AI does until today. It's amazing and so fast, and we got so much findings, and it's growing from each day. We get more and more findings, so we are already on way,
Okay, Paweł.
I think that technology is an important part of our life, and also it will be important part of consumer behavior studies. It is, we should treat it as tools which could be used and could be useful for us. And I think that we will still need it to interpret data, to understand them. So I hope that we could work for some 10 years, let's say.
Okay, so thank you very much for this optimistic voice. That there will be the space for all of us. But I think that not only with interpreting the data, but also when we start the research, so to define the proper goals. So we need to work with the managers and to really identify what is the problem, and then to convert the business problem into the research problem, and then finally to create the concept of the research, and then in a certain moment, yes, the IT guys will be really, really important for us and very helpful. And of course, what you said, that the interpretation of the data. We need a lot of sociologists, economists, psychologists. I remember that when I used to work for ING Bank, and we have also the visit in Amsterdam, and then they start use the big data, and they give us the examples that they were so afraid about the customer, especially the men who are renting the hotel not far away from their home. So like there was a distance like 50 kilometers from the home, because what was behind? It was not, nobody else can interpret than the people who knows the sociology, psychology, and so on. Because if there was happen like 3 times amount that you rent the hotel near your home, so it means that probably they interpret that probably you will have a lover. So soon your wife will recognize that you have a lover, then you have a problem in your house. So probably you will be divorced. And we know from the economical point of view that divorced customers usually has the biggest problem to pay back the credits to the bank. So they were able to identify potential problems in really, really advance before even wife was recognized that you have a lover. So we need to have both economists, we need to have sociologists, psychologists, that they will be able to interpret in the proper way the data we receive it, and then convert into decisions of the companies and the marketing decisions. All right, so I think that it's time to sum up the discussion. So could you just point the most important trends in the research in consumer behavior in marketing? So what do you think, what will be the hot topic or hot area on the research in the next few years?
Good question.
We'll continue this what we're already doing.
Yes, sure. But I think at least the most important thing is to getting validated data. So 100% data, I think we are working for that, and that will be a long way. But this is the future, you know? Make it more predictable, the consumer, understand the consumer, predictable behavior, and so things like that will be more and more important, and of course. And we're learning every day, you know it. We're sitting every day in our rooms and thinking, showing tasks but at least to understand which data is needed and how we can validate it.
All right, thank you.
In my case, I think the future is to understand very well how our brain works and how to connect with our customers and what they love. And of course, I think, because I'm from the communication area, we have to keep doing research for understand very well how to communicate with our target and how to connect with them. And because technology is changing, and now it's very difficult to reach our target, and we can use only social media or only TV. We need to understand how to connect with them with narrative transmedia or things like that. And I think that is going to be really important.
Especially if because right now we are talking about the paradigm of relationship marketing or partnership marketing. So how to build long-term and durable relations with the customers by delivering not only the good products and so on, but also with the communication issue. So.
That's a really important point. Sorry for that, but there was also a finding from our study, because when we look at the market, and they love to, because we have the climate crisis and so sustainable products, and what we find also out, and it's also an ethical question. Most of the brands and they're doing greenwashing. So they are not green. They're using words like recycling, climate crisis, and then but it's nothing nicer. So there are gaps, you know, between what the customer wants, already understand. The brands understand the customers, but they can't deliver, or they're lying. But the customers are not stupid. They're well educated and they understand.
And I would like to add a very short thing, and that it's because we are now in an environment full of competing companies, and now all the products are almost at the same level of quality. So the differentiation is around other issues and not in the product that was before. So that makes us that we have to pay more attention about how is the consumer and what they want.
All right, thank you. Paweł?
So summing up, I would like to focus on three problems. The first one, integration of methodological integration in the studies. But why? I think that the reality is very complex. The consumer behavior are changing very fast, and we need complex data. We need to have better picture of the reality. Knowledge should be both broad and deep, qualitative and quantitative. The second problem, if I have to choose one research attitude, I would focus on quantitative studies, because from marketing point of view, the most important today is to understand consumer. So the answer to the question why is more important than answering the question how many, how much. If it is possible, of course it is a good idea to join together different attitudes. If not, this understanding is very important from my point of view. And the third thing, the professor they mentioned about research action. And I think that there is a new attitude toward studies, because up to date, in marketing and consumer behavior area, we just collected data and finish on interpreting data. But this action research help us to do something more, to solve problems, to go one step further. And in my opinion, it is also interesting to consider this attitude in the future.
All right, thank you very much. Thomas, you wanted to add something?
I just was thinking, you know, to change something into the better one, you mean. So because I think so. I understand it like that because, you know, we already have, like I said before, the data to understand. Of course, we have to work on it, but we have to deliver the truth, you know. If you're talking about green products and recycling, you have to deliver them. So, you know, when you start playing with the customers, you will lose them. So, and this is the gap. So we have also work on it to deliver on the right place and in a true way. So using storytelling and things, let them experience it.
All right, so any questions or comments? Yes, please. Here.
Yes, I have only one more comment. It was a very interesting discussion. And I think also that we, as a researcher, we have to think about the security of our data. Because if we wanted to use the AI in a research area, because the consumer are more and more aware that of the possibilities of the leaking of the data, so they don't want to be part of the research sometimes because they are afraid what this data will be used for. So this is also a very interesting and very important issue that we have to, as a researcher, think about in our future, because I agree that the AI we can use and we will use in the future, or even now still using, to research, and maybe now more to the quantitative methods, not the qualitative one, but even so this is the important thing, that we have to explain to the consumer how we use the data, that they will be secure, that we get really validated issue and hypothesis and conclusions from them, and that they will be secure. So this is also the problem of how we can convince the consumer that they are secure, and then they can safely be part of our research. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right.
You're
Thank
completely
you very
right.
much. Yeah, this is very, very important. So finally, we should really treat the customer as a partner of our business, because actually, thanks to this, we can really create the really long-term durable relations with them, and then we can be benefits both, because the customer can benefit and also we will benefit. So definitely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They are open, actually, but they have to be sure for sure that they are secure.
Thank you, Sam. Very, very important voice in this discussion. Thank you so much.
It's already happened in areas. So, like I said before, when we look at the security area, they're using also your data, yeah, and look at Australia eye scanners, and then, but you feel comfortable, secure, so you give it, you know. Medical area, the same thing. So we have to find the ways, okay, where to adapt it, and then which way, and where's the limit, where we have to stop.
Should to explain to the consumers the path of our research, that they will be, very clear for them. We don't think about it at the beginning. Then we are maybe surprised a little bit that some of the consumers and some of the respondents don't want to speak with us, to tell their very important data or information. So we have to explain them. This is very important.
Completely.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions? Yes, please.
I think the problem is not for data. The problem for transfer the data to knowledge. That's problem, because if using AI for this data, we can transfer it to knowledge, and it's very dangerous to have a knowledge of many peoples. That's problem.
Yeah. This is very important issue. All right. So if not, thank you so much for the participation, and also thank you very much for all my colleagues to discuss, to take the panels, also for the questions. And right now we deserve for the coffee. But of course, I would like to invite you in a few minutes for the second session, which will discuss the impact of the consumer behavior research and marketing research on the society. So how we can really use this knowledge in the practice in the real world. So thank you very much, and see you soon after the break. Thank you.